Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today we're looking at what new world or potentially timeline, depending upon what kind of terminology you like to use, are you creating now? And this could be something you're creating unconsciously or consciously, but kind of the purpose of this is to bring the energy and the motives and the aspirations and the challenges and all the things associated with that to the surface, so it does become conscious. Because certainly if you want to become the architect of your future and the architect of your world, whether it be very personal, close to you, family, friends, lovers, community, or whether it's much bigger and on a much bigger stage, you really need to be conscious of what you're doing as well. So this is the idea of what are you building at the moment? What changes? What are you bringing into being? What is changing from what is already in play and so forth. And the inspiration came from this gorgeous new deck that I just received, having backed it on Kickstarter. It's a really ingenious deck called the Craft Felt Tarot. I'll just show you. So by Gianna Lucci. It was on Kickstarter. I backed it. It's now available at her Etsy store. The link for that, like all the other sort of information about finding decks, is in the description box below if you're interested. But what's really ingenious about this is that it's a deck that is effectively made from felt, and then of course the imagery is photographed and put into being. So in any of these things, and I just might pull a card randomly to show you what I mean. So let's just say the Four of Pentacles there. When I bring it up closer, it may be clearer to see. You can see how literally she built this image in felt, in the way that, felt sort of art can be done. And then she would have, taken the image of the actual 3D or semi-3D creation that the felt art brought into being to create the actual deck. So, it's a lot of meticulous work in here. Great ideas about how to visually represent the archetypes. But to me, it's almost like the closest thing to something like a 3D, here's the world, the tarot world deck as you could come to, because it has that kind of physicality to it and that kind of depth to it physically, if that makes sense. And so when I thought, what topic could I do to showcase this gorgeous new deck? I just thought, she's built a tarot world here, and very beautifully, very cleverly, very artistically. And so to me, that seemed to be the ideal topic that would introduce the deck. You're going to see this deck probably quite a bit on my channel because it's really gorgeous. But I really just wanted to showcase it and have a topic that fit. And this just seemed to be a topic that would fit. So that's the inspiration. So it's going to be this one tarot deck that we use all the way through, though there is a second tarot deck with some cards underneath this that are intuitively pulled. I don't know what they are, which is kind of showing some of the lenses of the creation to start with. But otherwise, it's just this tarot deck. So what I did was I shuffled and then I dealt out and I asked for the first three major arcana cards to be pile 1, pile 2, pile 3, so that we get a little bit of an energy about the kind of focus or type of new world you're looking at. So for pile number 1, we have the Hermit. For pile number 2, we have Judgment. And for pile number 3, we have the Lovers. So that may help you choose. If you always go to pile 3, go to pile 3. If you want to go to more than one pile and sort of see an amalgamated world that covers a number of things, that's fine. Do whatever works for you. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Hermit. And the Hermit, of course, would always give to this a very strong spiritual aspect, a sense that the world that you're trying to create consciously, or the one that you're creating unconsciously, comes a lot from your spiritual path, your spiritual journey, and possibly trying to find your way through something to a greater clarity. So you may want, and I think this energy is showing up here, which I'll talk about in a minute, a world where there is greater truth, greater honesty, greater clarity in the way we communicate with each other. And it's almost as though the way that you are doing this is to go within and find the light within, to then be able to come out with an energy that is a leadership energy in this space. Why I'm saying that, apart from the fact that we have the Hermit, and that is very much a kind of energy of the Hermit, going within, finding the light within, is because of these cards. Now, these cards are structured a particular way. I drew 3 cards from the Compass Mentis Tarot deck, and I use that deck because it's the kind of, to me, it's the psychological, it's the unformed, it's the liminal, because it's monochromatic. So to me, this is the sort of lenses of what you're trying to create but has not yet been created. That's the idea. And the first lens is the material aspect of the world. The second is the emotional, and the third is the spiritual. And it's very interesting that the strongest card in many ways there is, in fact, the spiritual. So the dominant energy around what you're trying to do is spiritual. If you're trying to create a world that's primarily, money and possessions, maybe try another of the in the piles, because this is going to be very spiritual. I think it will have nuances of the material. We are going to look at all of that, but there's something here about the sovereignty of the spiritual, and I think the independence of the spiritual. And it's almost like, how you use power in the right way, or how you use influence in the right way, leadership that comes from a spiritual place. It also makes me think of, if this was playing out in a work organisation, you were moving into some sort of leadership role there, that you would be more likely to be what they call a servant leader than some of the other types of leaders. I personally think the servant leader is the best type of leader, both because I do think it comes from a spiritual call where the leader says, I'm here to serve those who are doing the work, to help them so that we collectively get a good outcome, rather than I'm here to be top dog and feel really special. So I think just on that level, it's a very good connection of energy, and anything that you might do materially with this or lead with this is likely to be in a very aligned and spiritually pure sort of way. So I think that is probably the sort of energy that we're seeing. I mean, you don't have to be in an organisation doing that. I'm just using that as an example. But certainly where the sovereignty is and where the leadership is, where you would want to lead out in the creation of the world around you, is in that sense. So, and it may be indeed wanting to bring the spiritual to the material. Because what's interesting is the other 2 cards. When we're looking at the material and we're looking at the emotional, we have like the Ace of Swords reversed tells me that there is some new idea, some new thing that you want to bring into being materially. It has not yet happened. And so it needs the first idea, the spark, just like the spark of the lamp that the hermit has. So, and a leader needs an inspiration. So it's possible that what's going on at the moment is you have a vision of where you want to be, but you don't at this point materially have a vision of where to start. So that it's there, it's waiting to be woken up, and it'll be interesting when we have a look at the various aspects of it as we go through. But I feel like there's a new way of thinking, a new idea, a new way of being in the material world that has a more spiritual focus that you would like to be involved with. So on a material level, it's sort of philosophical, but you haven't worked out the starting point yet. And then emotionally, some of this is being driven. I think a lot of it's being driven from the emotional point. I think you feel one of 2 things is happening at the moment that you want to rectify. Either emotionally, you feel like there is a lot of dishonesty around you. And so, whether it's in a workplace where you need better leadership and you want to be able to have the idea to be able to lead out of this dishonest sort of thing, politically, socially, within relationships, or you feel that you are underutilizing your skills, because the magician has all the different skills, all the gifts, but maybe when it's reversed, it's not yet been activated. So I think this is either going to be, and it'll probably be for both in a way, and I will get more information as we do the tarot section in more detail. I feel like this is either going to be that, people are building a world to rectify injustice, lies, deceit, that kind of thing, and bring a better and clearer and more spiritually aligned sort of leadership into something. And as I say, this could be around, a relationship. It doesn't have to be sort of in a work organisation or on the world stage. So for some of you, it may be. So it's either that, or it's that that you have, you want to lead out and bring into being a new sort of spiritual way of being, but you have yet to work out how to start it and how to harness your skills the best way. And that's kind of a little bit of a block for you, because emotionally you're feeling like you're underutilized, or you're not sure how to use your skills. Or you may not think you're ready, though I suspect you are, because of the spirituality, but you may not fully believe that. Okay, so I think this is a world towards a clearer and more spiritual way of interacting, and you want to be a leader in that, and you have the potential for that. Whether you have to get through actual dishonesty or whether it's just working out how best to start and use your skills. Those are the two kind of variables here. So what we're going to look at with tarot is what type of world do you want? So what are you trying to create? We're going to then have a look at how does this differ from where you currently are? And then what unseen forces do you need to be aware of? So what is the world that you want to create? Because I think for you, you want to do it. You haven't necessarily worked out how to start yet. So what do you want to create? Judgment. The Magician. Oh, that's interesting. You want to turn that around. I have to work out what these are because it's the first time I've used the deck. The Six of Wands reversed. Okay, well, that's interesting as well. The Five of Pentacles reversed. And the Six of Cups reversed. Okay. This does suggest to me that this is more about you working out how to use your skills and follow your calling than it is about deceit. Though for some of you, there may be a dual operation emotionally here where deceit is also involved. But the reason I feel it's more likely that you have a sense of a calling towards a spiritual leadership in some way or bringing more spiritual principles to something that you want to lead on is that we have the Six of Wands reversed, which suggests you're feeling you're not seen at this point, you're not recognized. So, or that you know that there is a calling and you're not sure yet what it is. So even you haven't fully recognized it. You do have the skills that you need. As I said, I feel like that was more an emotional energy and spirit is confirming that. What it is to be recognized for those skills and to be able to then bring people together with the Five of Pentacles reversed and do something that's very different to the past. Now, this is the one bit that could say that there is also something unjust or wrong in the environment that you're in, or if it was a relationship, to find the right relationship that connects with you skill level and relationship level and spiritual level and emotional level and all that kind of thing, so that you're not alone. Like, it depends on what it is that you're trying to create, but it is very different. Like, the one thing you don't want is to return to the past. So you do have a sense materially that something new has to come in. For the Ace of Swords to be there, it is pretty much as though the last reign of swords has happened, and that idea, that kind of principle, that sort of philosophy in the material world has done its dash, and now it's time for something new. So you're right on the precipice of something new, and it has to be significantly different to the past. Has to bring people together more, has to clarify things and use your skills. But I'm not sure. Part of this may be that you're not sure what your role is and you aren't recognizing it, or you do know what the calling is, but you're trying to work out how to get other people to see that you're meant to do that. So I think the world that you want uses your skills and brings you together with people. There's also a sense here, actually, because this is the world that you want. And so I think you do want your skills to be recognized, but I also think you don't want it to be a competition. You're not interested in a competition. You want to bring people together. You have a natural leadership energy. It's about the spiritual heft that you bring to something. It's not about wanting to become the new despot that takes over from the old despot. Okay, so let's have a look at how does this differ from the current world. The Empress reversed. Wow, the Tower reversed. The Sun. Strength. Okay, all right. So, there's something about the world that you're in, whether it's very personal for you or whether it's that you feel it is for other people. I suspect it's a little bit of both, actually. When you have a leadership energy, I feel like it's not just you that we're talking about, but there's something about it where the new world that you're wanting to create, the new circumstances, new environment, whatever it is much more in line with people's strengths and their life path. At the moment, it needs to break through what seems to be a suppression of, there's capacity to self-create and abundance and the divine feminine principle. So there's sort of something in here maybe about being less patriarchal. It's like a different form of patriarchal energy because we've got you sort of coming up spiritually as the emperor, but I think it's a different form of maybe balance between the genders, that kind of thing. And it's saying with the Tower reverse that it is different because the old system does not allow growth. And this is what I think. I think it, like, whatever this is in, relationships, a job that you're in, societally, politically, whatever it is, it's kind of spent. There was maybe something that suppressed the feminine a bit, but more than anything, it's like it's run out of ideas. And so it's just this only needs an incremental shift. It's not like you've got to suddenly sort of say, we've got to completely change a political structure or something like that, or completely change the financial system. It's not that kind of thing. It's more an incremental thing. It's an incremental change that allows growth again. It's like pruning a garden, actually, so that it'll grow again, and rather than, if that had been upright, completely ploughing it all out and starting all over and doing something completely different with the area. So there's an incremental change, but it's meant to make people feel more on their life path. Because I think you feel, because there's a sort of a sense of like you have these skills and maybe they're not recognised or you're not even sure how to use them for this, people are divided maybe into illegitimate groups, and I think this does happen. I think that, in social environments, in workplaces and things like that, people get categorized and then that limits them. So I think this is a sense of like what you want is something that's more open to people exploring all their gifts and what their life path truly is, because everybody benefits from that. Everybody benefits from that. But if we say that out of 10 people, 5 of them have to work in financial services, 3 have to work in government, and the other 2 have to work in the arts, then you're inevitably, there's probably going to be in some of those groups of 10 people who would be much better in the arts, or people who would be much, like whatever it might be. You're not going to get the alignments. You're not going to get the best outcome for everybody. So it's that kind of feeling. But this could be at a very personal level, but this is an incremental shift to allow growth again and allow people to feel that they can move towards their strengths. So that's what you want to see. You want to see something that's like a true meritocracy rather than something that's created through societal biases and so forth. But as I say, it could be at any level in your life. Okay, so what unseen forces do you need to be aware of? So this could be external things, this could be other spiritual energies, whatever, that could, be a challenge around you creating the world that you want to create. The King of Pentacles reversed. The King of Cups reversed. And the Devil reversed. Okay, the old order doesn't really want to give up the reins. That's pretty much what that's saying. There is still life in the old material dog yet, so to speak. And like that's still there. Like the new idea is there, but you're not quite at a point. It's like if something is shifting to the point where you really can affect a change, it's probably not quite there yet, and there will be a push. There are people who are very happy with the way things are, and they're going to try and hold on to it. Now, I don't think they're going to win because it's reversed, but nevertheless, that is a thing. And they may try and appear like victims or wounded in some way, or they may withdraw offers. So you may think, say this was in a work sort of situation, you may think, I'm now aligned to what I want to do. We're moving forward with this. I'm waiting for the kind of like the promotion or the benefactor or whatever. And then because they're actually part of the old order, they pull back, that kind of energy. So you need to be aware that, as I say, whatever you're trying to shift or change for a new world, the people who were comfortable in the other world, or the energies, spiritual energies, it doesn't even have to be people that were comfortable, are going to maybe try and cut off the resources, cut off the emotional connection or energy, cut off the offers. And you're going to need to free yourself from that. It's hard. What it's just saying is in this scenario, it's hard to free yourself from the old almost propaganda and power of whatever the situation was. So as I say, this could be very personal. I think for a lot of you though, this is like in an organisation, this is political or social, something like that. Because it just has that feeling of an old order shifting and a new one coming in that you are spiritually trying to impact. So, and I do think like the fact that the King of Cups reverse fell sort of kind of under where the Magician reverse was, I do think there could be some manipulation. People might try and manipulate you. They might try and manipulate you that something that's actually of the old order is the freedom of the new order. So you have to really assess what offers or collaboration or whatever you're getting from others. Okay, so let's get you a couple of really powerful guides for the material or political aspect of this, and then we're going to get a couple for the sort of more spiritual and emotional. So when we're talking material, political, societal, whatever degree of that, and if your thing doesn't really fit that, just ignore this bit or take the energy from it in another way. We have Astaria. And Moonaros. I've never heard of Moonaros. So I just had to pause to check who Moonaros was. And so this is sort of like a connection to Cancer and the moon. It's about the subconscious, going into the subconscious and finding your way in the darkness. So there's a very similar sort of energy between the hermit there and this. So I do think in this situation, whether it's very complex personal relationships or it's something like political or social, and this is particularly around the political or social, but just in general, I think that there is something where you have to go within to see the clarity, and Moonaros will help you with that. It sort of gives me a sense of being able to see through this sort of energy. Moonaros will help you with that. So I think like if you're dealing with a material or political issue, going within is going to give you the insight that you need. Interesting with Astaria, she is about connecting with your inner child. So that's really interesting in that we had the Emperor upright and then we had the Empress reversed in, what is the change, like how much change do you need and what are you heading towards. There may be something for you, particularly if you are doing this in a material or political way, where going back and looking what happened in your relationship with your parents and even the relationship between them is instructive in some way. I just find it very interesting that's the case. Otherwise, it's go within and find out what is your true path through connecting with your inner child. Whenever on a material level things get murky or there's lies around or you're not really sure what to trust, like go within. This is very much a sense of go within and commune with your own knowledge. Moonaros and Astaria can help you with that, but that's what they're talking about. Now, when we're looking at the more spiritual and emotional energy, so if that's the kind of material stuff, so when it's material, go within. So everything around this is very spiritual. Then on a spiritual level, let's get you a couple of spirit guides from the animal kingdom. We have Toad, purification towards luck. So yeah, there is something like that's interesting with the Ace of Swords reversed. There may actually be a bit of a hint because that is talking about the material side of this and something hasn't yet started and you've got to go within. I think the Toad might be helping you connect to that because I do think with most of you there is something kind of a little bit material about this. So I think that it's like the purification that's necessary before the new idea comes through, or the pruning of the garden that's necessary before the new growth. So there is something about purifying an environment here, and Toad will help you with that. Yeah, when you're dealing with it sort of spiritually and emotionally, the sense of having purification is important. And Parrot, communication, then allowing you to communicate. And like the Magician, turning the Magician around to the Magician upright, like using your communication skills, being able to take things or to communicate what from a pure place, things that are emotional or spiritual, which fits with, a leadership role that is spiritually connected. Okay, let's just see on a very everyday level what energies are around as well too, because it's a little bit theoretic. Let's have a look at some everyday energy that you will be encountering as you try and create this new world. The iced coffee. Okay, this is kind of propaganda. I think in some sense, something about the old order and the kind of almost like, if you think about iced coffee a lot of the time, like from some of those big mass market organizations, there's something about the machine and the allure of the machine. So in whatever this environment is, or, if this is about something very personal, it might be the lure of someone else who is very sweet talking, when you wanted to be with someone, but they're being drawn away by somebody else. There's something about, what is real, I think, around this situation. It's been there right from the beginning, particularly with the Magician reversed, around what you're dealing with emotionally. And the himbo, okay. So there's some, I think that there's someone, or the himbo is representing something. And again, maybe the more patriarchal energy, if the matriarchal energy has been suppressed, but there's somebody who is appealing, but almost kind of, the substance is not there, but you kind of have a rival or a competitor or something to be aware of. So let's just get you a couple of pieces of advice around that. Firstly, shine your own light. Yeah, so if there's propaganda going on, trying to kind of unravel that or point out how facile it is not going to work. Just shine your own light. And keep checking in with yourself if you're feeling stressed, because this is a bit stressful. Don't let that stress you. Go back within the spiritual side of yourself to move forward. So there's something about communication. There's something about falsehood. There's something about people who are into propaganda or presenting themselves a particular way, but they're not what they're pretending to be. All of that is there, but the answers for you are within, and then in taking that and shining it out, not really in head-on fighting them. It's more in creating the new concept or the new way of being. Okay, so let's just get you a couple of astrology energies to guide you as well. Second house owning. Yeah, this does have a material feeling to it, I have to say. I do think it's very spiritual, but it has a very material thing. Now, the thing about the second house is it is about creating the life that you want, the status you want, all of those things, but it is in accordance with your ethics. And the good thing about this is you're very spiritually aligned. But I think you're in an unethical situation, or there's a risk of being seduced into unethical situations. So this is like really making sure you go within and you stick with your light. And third house, messages, yeah, how you get the communication. That's why we had communication coming up with the parrot. It's like it all comes down to assessing what communication is coming to you, and also thinking very carefully about what you communicate as opposed to the old order way of communicating. Could be for some of you that getting a message out through sort of more sort of modern energies, social media or whatever, is a way to get ahead of the old order. It just depends on what you're doing in this space. Okay, to finish up, I'm just going to draw a card from the Earth Power Oracle for a place with a spiritual energy, which is very fitting for you with the Hermit, that might in some way approximate some of the energy of the new world that you're creating. Sumba Island, fertility of all kinds is my birthright. This is, maybe with all the sort of like getting the growth and the abundance back. I am connected to all the cycles of the land and sky. Healthy fierceness is something to be valued. Be patient, the time will come. And I think that's a good message with this. I think for most of you, you have a sense of this coming in. You have a kind of suspicion of destiny around it. Your time will come. And it's your connection and your balance and your spiritual approach, even in the material. But there is something very material, something very fertile about this. So I do think you're going to be successful, but I do think you have to deal with the kind of last propaganda gasps or whatever it is, lies, illusions, delusions, sweet talking or whatever of the old order. And that could be directed at you or could be directed at those that you're trying to reach. So I wish you well, because I think that what you will bring in is actually far better than the past. I hope that resonates for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, part 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with judgment, and judgment itself as an energy suggests a number of things. It could suggest something very karmic, something like a kind of resolution or an outcome to something spiritually that you've been dealing with, or in some other sort of temporal matter. It could be also answering the call. That's often the thing with judgment. So there could literally have been something that has recently happened, or this might be triggered by some sort of a call. An example being getting a call offering you a job or asking you to join some sort of cause or something like that. Otherwise, I think that it could be about connecting to sort of like the kind of almost the Akashic record sort of thing, to see what is necessary karmically around whatever's going on. It's kind of a channeling sort of message. I think if that's the case, given these cards, there's something creative about it. Having said all that, I think given looking at these cards that are also coming with it, and I'll explain that in a minute, I'm using the Compass Mentis Tarot because these are sort of like the unformed energies, and I'm using the monochromatic theme as a way of metaphorically portraying that. I do feel that whatever this is, the thing about the Judgment card is it is a decision, it is a change, it is a transition. So that it's definitely picking up the new world change energy, but it's one that you can't sort of sit around on for too long, because otherwise the opportunity passes. So there's something in this where, You have to move fairly quickly once it starts to make it happen. And there's a reluctant energy here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not something that you want to do. It could just be that you think, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm not sure. Once it gets going, it might go too fast. What do I do? And so one of your challenges is going to be, and this requires you to come out into the world in some way, express something in some way. So, if it was something personal, like, you've met someone and you're interested, you've got to do something like ask them out pretty soon or the opportunity is going to pass. So whatever this is has a certain degree of urgency about it. Yet the energy that I'm seeing here at the moment about the different aspects of this is kind of a little bit more reserved and a little bit wanting to go a bit slower. Because this is how this is operating materially, this is how it's operating emotionally, and this is how it's operating spiritually. So materially, there is a sense that there is a new idea, a new inspiration, a new channeled message, a new passion, something like that. But either you have not, it hasn't come yet, the call hasn't come yet, so you're waiting on that, you have a sense that change is coming, but you don't know yet, and you don't want to start creating some new world until you've got the inspiration, in which case that's fine. There's no real problem in waiting till it comes. You're just going to have to move fast when it does. Or it is that it has come and you're kind of like, you're not sure, like, okay, I've got the idea, but I don't even know what to do with it. And as a result, when we look at it emotionally, you're sort of pulling away and trying to kind of like just contemplate and sit in the contemplative phase rather than getting out and actively doing something or communicating something. And I think with this card, that's going to be an issue potentially. So you have to really get ready for this. Or if it's just come, you've got to kind of really quickly shake yourself around a bit and go, I've got to get out into the world. I've got to do this. Like regardless of whether it succeeds or fails, it can only succeed if I act soon or if I communicate or I come out into the world a bit more, because there's just a kind of emotional withdrawal energy that's operating about it at the moment. And then when we look at spiritually, it's like, you just want to slow it down. So I think you have a idea that it's good, but it's like, wow. It also spiritually frees you up in some way that you almost feel, what do I do now? Or do I want that freedom? So one of the things I get, and this is a very specific thing, but when I sort of see the judgment energy there and then I see the Eight of Wands, like reverse, it's almost like I feel like I'm looking at a medieval knight who particularly dedicated themselves to a particular sort of like spiritual path or to a particular spiritual patron or to an archangel or something like that. And it's like they're being released. They've done what they needed to do and they're like, what do I do now? So there's a kind of a slowing it down because it's going too fast, or I don't know what I would do next once it's done, and I'm not really sure I want to be free of this. But it is a kind of a liberation energy as well. So there's quite a bit of ambivalence. This is a new world you're creating, but I think there's a kind of an ambivalence about it. So we will explore that as we go through. What we're going to be looking at using the craft felt tarot now rather than the kind of like energetic potentiality of it. We're going to look at what type of world would you like to create, which might be a little bit different to the one you're being called to, but nevertheless, But if you followed your calling, maybe we need to try and align it with this. So what world would be created if you followed the calling in your case? Then how does this differ from the present world, and what unseen forces do you need to know about? So what is the calling? Let's do it that way, because I think if we go what might you create, it may not align with this energy. So let's say the calling is coming and there's a certain amount of lack of choice about part of this, at the very least about the timing. So what world are you being called to create? Five of Cups, Emperor reversed, Two of Pentacles reversed. Yeah, there isn't a choice. Magician reversed, Empress. Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting because it's almost got a mirror image, or it's got a connection maybe to one of the other readings. So some of you might have gone to more than one. It's about healing from something, some emotional disappointment. So this is probably why the emotional energy, and in fact, it may be more like healing. It may be healing emotionally. It may not be that you were withdrawing, though. There is a risk that you withdraw emotionally, but at its best, the Five of Cups allows you to start to get over a disappointment. The Four of Swords allows you to heal. And that's the emotional energy. So it's possible that this is a calling that would actually heal something. It seems to be potentially a rift I mean, like if it's sort of like on a social political level, or even a spiritual one, a rift between um, the misapplication of the divine masculine and the correct application in a way of the divine feminine. This could have to do with a breakup. This is an opportunity either to resolve that or heal from that, and then go out into the world again. If this is about you meet someone and you've got to get over the past to be able to go out and have something happen, and then you might think, oh, it's too quick. So that could be the case. It could be about that. Um, Otherwise, if it's in a social or political thing, there's something about uh, the calling is to address the disappointments of inappropriate use of power. So that and dishonesty, like some sort of dishonesty that's operated, so that something more healthy can grow, and you really don't have a choice. So this is like, if it's an emotional thing, it's you don't really have a choice but to get out and see what happens, because this is what will ultimately heal something that didn't work, or at least has the opportunity to do that. But you're a little bit reluctant because you're emotionally still getting over something. If it's around something more sort of like work, social, political, then there's something that wasn't honest, and you're going to be called into a position or a part of this, or a discussion or something like that, that is going to shift this, and it will shift it for the better. But it's like, it's a bit of a scary energy in a way about the communication and being part of this, because it was about some sort of powerful thing that wasn't appropriate, but you don't have a choice. It actually feels a bit like being called as a witness to something, in a judicial hearing or something, or in an investigation. Doesn't have to be that, but that's just an energy that's a bit similar. So this is about clearing out bad energy and misuse of power, or bad energy and like a rift in a relationship energy kind of thing, that will be healing and you don't have a choice about, but it's also a little bit disturbing to do it. So how would following this call, whether it's asking someone else out after you've, or going out with someone else who asks you out after you've been disappointed before, or standing up and speaking the truth in something that needs to be said, whatever it might be, how would the new world differ from the current situation? The King of Wands reversed, the Three of Wands, the Four of Pentacles reversed, and the Nine of Cups. Okay, for a start, it'll be better. For a start, emotionally, it gets a lot better. Some old foundation has to crumble or change as a result of it. There is a sense of having a better direction coming out of it, and moving away from, as I say, this kind of like Emperor reversed, King of Pentacles, King of Wands reversed. There's this sort of sense of like some wrong power energy, some distorted masculine energy, whatever it might be. That's kind of, they're both cards that can be kind of like bullies and narcissists and that kind of thing. It's like it's moving away from that. Like I always feel like either this person is sent packing, or you move away from that, you free yourself from that. You've got all these different kind of like modes of movement, like a plane, a ship, a train. Like maybe it even is a division now, like a scattering of parties to allow you to go forward for what is right for you, that undoes something, undoes it. I mean, this could be, to be honest, the other thing this could be is that you are in a relationship that is not good for you. And this frees you from that to allow you to explore other things. That is a possibility. But whatever it is, there's a sense of separation from that energy. It does kind of mean a new foundation has to be built, but it can be a much happier one. So it's sort of like if you just kind of let it happen. But there is a speed about it. See, I also think, there is some choice about the amount of speed, I have to say, implied by this, but there still has to be forward momentum. Because if you think about it, you've got like three types of transport there. The fastest by far is the plane. So like it may be, that you can choose to do it really quickly, like ripping the Band-Aid off, or you can go still pretty fast, but not as fast with the train, or you can make it slower with the ship. And the other thing I get about this is I'm just getting it because of the nature of the way the cards depicted here, but that's relevant to this reading, is that you may have a choice of direction. So say for argument's sake, this was that you have been in a relationship that was too bullying and too controlling. And you have the opportunity like to either just leave it or to wait and go when there's someone else. Either way, something's coming. So either someone else is coming along soon or you get to do the judgment around this and you get to decide to go when it suits you. And you might decide to go quicker. So it's almost like there's a couple of ways that you could go reasonably quickly, and then there's another way that's a little bit slower. So you can choose the speed more than you're worried about. So don't worry so much about that. But once the calling has come, you have to have some form of momentum. So what unseen forces are operating with this you need to be aware of? I think that's the Knight of Wands, because that's the King. It's a little bit hard sometimes to tell them apart. The Knight usually has an N, but I think that's right. The King of Swords. Yeah, it's a Knight when it's just the K. And the Knight, I'm learning this deck as I go along. And the Seven of Wands reversed. Okay. So there may be another party that's involved in this coming up as the king. So it's like, as I said, like for some of you, this could be like being a witness in some sort of like legal matter. So what that person decides to do or the speed that they want to go at could have an impact on this. It could be if you are separating out and there's legal things to do with it. The speed of the legal system is important to keep in mind. But this sort of thing, there's sort of something, or it could be just within you, like this worry. You need to be aware of this kind of concern you have about speed, because it's the one thing that could slow you down or could actually take away your courage when you need it. Because this does seem to need a bit of courage for some reason. So you probably can't control, if there is anything legal around this, you probably can't control the speed of that, but don't let that be an issue for you. But if this is you, kind of like trying to control speed around how quickly this happens, it may actually be it's not really that, it's that you're kind of like, it's a lack of courage. So you need to get very resolute on what you're wanting to do so that speed doesn't cause a kind of reticence to do anything. As I say, the judgment energy is really powerful around once this comes, it's a choice, it's a change. You can't muck around, you've got to get on with it. So I think there is this kind of inner reluctance, this inner fear, but it is actually going to operate well. You're going to succeed if you take it on. That's the only way you would not succeed in creating the world you wanted, is to fail to take it on because you're too worried about the speed or the momentum or whatever, the change. And you do have some choice about that, but there are also factors you need to take into account. Okay, it's quite complicated. So let's get you some powerful energy. Let's get you some deities to help you on any material or political sort of or worldly aspects, and then we're going to get some animal spirit guides around the spiritual and emotional. But let's get you some guides around anything that has to do with interacting with the material or political world in relation to this. Diviner. And Viridian. Okay, so this is interesting. I actually think Diviner is kind of connected a bit with the King of Swords thing, if you're using that right. So if you resonated to one of the unseen forces, might be the way your own mind responds to this and trying to keep that sort of sense of clarity. Diviner is about that sort of thing. She's about the mind. She's a Saturnian energy. She gives us sort of like discipline and control that is necessary. So if there is something that the external material, political, social, legal world is involved in this, she will help make sure that you have the focus and the clarity that you need. And so trust that you'll be able to do that. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt that. You're going to be on point. And the calling energy or the various movable parts of this, it will work to your advantage. Don't worry so much about that. Just have the discipline to stay clear on what you want. And then it's like, this is telling you how to deal with any of the energies around the material or external that may have some sort of impact. Instead of worrying about them and thinking, oh, it's going too fast and I'm not being able to control it, think of it like Viridian. Viridian is a hunter. So the hunter has focus, and the hunter moves with the energy and the timing towards a goal. So be very clear on your goal and look at it and focus it on it as a way a hunter would do. So once the calling comes, do that. Don't start to think, the hunter doesn't think, oh, like, am I going too fast? Like, or in terms of like, is something else going to sort of stop me or whatever. The hunter is very focused on the prey, and you need to be kind of focused on that. It's not like you treating other people as prey, but like keep your eye on the goal and think like a hunter, not like someone who's hunted. That's the energy around this, particularly if it's got a very material or political or social or potentially, as they say, legal side of it. What about emotionally and spiritually? Let's get you a couple of spirit animals. So we have dog, friendship. So you're going to have people around you that are good. Like, it's not like everybody's an issue here. And friends can help. I think this is the other thing, like, don't feel that you're alone with this. And it would be better, instead of withdrawing emotionally with the Four of Swords, to reach out to your friends. You're going to have good friends around this. Or connect a dog spirit if you don't feel like you've got friends in the current situation. And wow, dragon, the power of being. You've got a lot of power in. There's a lot of power energy for you. So don't doubt that. Like, I think you kind of doubt yourself for some reason, but you don't need to. And the dragon operates like a hunter when necessary. So take that sort of energy up. Don't spiritually feel you've got powerful friends, basically, is what this is kind of saying, at least on the spiritual realm. Okay, let's see. We've been talking kind of almost esoterically about this. Let's see some everyday energy that's around creating this new world and some advice for you. So the red flags. Yeah, there's something. You can't ignore this. Whatever this is, you can't ignore this. And I do think the red flags has a lot to do with dealing with narcissistic, bullying kind of energy or whatever in some way. So it's like you really do have to look at that. You can't just withdraw and hope it all goes away, because it's not going to. There is this is a change that needs to happen. And excessive Googling. Okay, I think this is this is another delay tactic, I've got to say. Like, stay focused on your prey. Don't kind of like get so broad in what you're doing that you kind of like, you spend all your time doing that and you're not actually, communicating and connecting and doing what you need to do to make this happen and to answer the call. So, and it's a sign, it's a delay tactic. It's also a sign of doubt, and you shouldn't have doubt. You're an unseen force here is that your clarity is good, particularly with Diviner helping you. So just don't, and if you're facing an issue, don't think I'm just going to Google until I find the answer. The answer you kind of know. The answer is in the calling. So let's get some advice about each of these. So about dealing with the red flags. We've got, if you mess up, fess up, reverse. This is not your fault. This is not your fault. So if someone's gaslighting you about it, know that it's not. And if somebody tries to project on you in this, it's not you. It's not you. But that could be a red flag if somebody starts trying to blame you for things. And around the excessive Googling, and breathe. Yeah, don't sort of get into a frenzy about that. Don't put all the energy and the action into just Googling. It's just kind of like get the still clarity of a hunter and go after what you need to go after. Okay, let's also get you some astrology energy as well to help out. Void, of course, moon missing. Yeah, the main issue for you at the moment is that there's probably two. One is that when the calling comes, you don't trust yourself, you doubt yourself, and you really shouldn't. But I think this has been part of the issue and why the calling's coming. And I feel like this is almost like divine intervention to get you to escape this energy, because I think there's an energy around you that manipulates you into feeling this way. But it is also that, it's almost that the most imperative thing at the moment is to shift away from an energy rather than like kind of solidify what the energy is you're shifting to. The important thing is the momentum to leave rather than knowing where you're going. And you may be someone who really likes to know where you're going, but I feel like it's more about leaving is the point at this point, leaving something, freeing yourself in some way. rectifying an issue in some way and then starting to build from there. So like you need to be comfortable with closing something out before you work out the next step. And yeah, 8th house, endings and beginnings. You've got to go through the ending energy and close something out before you can go to the new. So this is sort of saying there is a new world for you to create. And in the end, remember we saw with the 9 of Cups, it's going to be better than what you've been dealing with in whatever this is. But right now, the calling energy for you to do that is to leave or close off or vanquish some other energy that is not working. That's what this is talking about. Okay, so even given that, to finish off, I'm just using the Earth Power Oracle to get a sense of the new world you can create. So what I'm going to be asking Spirit here for is, yes, we've been spending the whole reading talking about the passage out of the old rather than what the new is. We know that the new is going to be better because there's something you really do need to free yourself from. But what could the new be once you've done that? To give you a bit of an idea, if you're sort of saying, oh, I'm worried if I don't really know, give you a bit of a light on the hill. Delphi, I receive divine messages constantly. Yes, you do. And clearly, I look for the truth in any situation. I know myself. Power comes from the inside out. Yeah. This is coming to know your own power. But I think that you are very, very divinely connected, as I say. Like there's a really strong clarity that's coming through on that level. And so I think part of the new world is you trusting that and knowing, you know what, actually I did come through that. I did succeed in what I needed to do. And now I can call upon that same inspiration to work out what this is. What is the next new world going to be? So we're looking at transitional energy here, but this is to give you the sense of how much power and energy you actually have yourself and how much clarity you have yourself, because something in the current world has made you doubt that. So you've got to kind of clear that energy so that you can head towards using your inner knowing to create what you want. So it's a bit heavy, but I think you'll get there. You just don't doubt yourself, pile 2. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Lovers. And so the Lovers is all about relationship choice. It can be about a relationship. So some of you may be drawn to this and feel that you're trying to create a new world with a relationship, and it's either you're not sure whether the relationship is going to be what you want it to be, or you might be starting to build that and you want to see how you can make that as positive as possible. It could be that you've just split up from somebody and it's now like, what is the next relationship, etc. So it could be very, very personal. But it could also go all the way out to being social, political, that kind of thing as well, which would then be, if you're trying to create a new world and shift the way that people relate, what would you create? So an example might be if you were coming from a very fundamentalist religion sort of environment that was very prescriptive about who could be in love and who could marry and who could connect and all that kind of thing. You may want something that is more free for people to follow their actual preferences, that sort of thing. So it's just an example, but so it could be like that. It could also be a spiritual energy of a divine union, either literally finding a divine counterpart, and that's the world that you want to create, and in doing that help the world by the energies coming together. Or you may want to connect your own masculine and feminine, divine masculine and feminine energy within yourself to create an inner world. So it could be very, very spiritual. And it may well be that tarot tells us a little bit more about which it really is, or it may be that all of those things could apply and it just depends on who's coming to the reading. But one of the things that helps us understand this in a little bit more detail is I also use the Compass Mentis Tarot, and I use it because it's monochromatic. So I wanted to use it as a kind of set of lenses for this world, but it's almost like it's the uncreated world because the colour isn't there. That's the sort of idea. It's the potentiality and the lenses through which you would be creating this new world or this new timeline. This is the material, this is the emotional, and this is the spiritual. So there is definitely an ending to something that was established materially around this. Now, it's interesting because you would often think of pentacles as being more, particularly in a material way, the sort of corporate and governmental power structures, all that kind of thing. And so you would typically see the King of Pentacles coming up where there could be a shift in a financial system, a political system, or something like that. But we've got the Lovers there. Now, it is possible if any of you are huge political power brokers and you come to this, then this could be about shifting alliances materially in that kind of realm, definitely. So I'm not ruling it out, but I kind of feel this is more the kind of there's a materiality connection to this about how people relate, I think. For most people, this is about a world where there is more freedom to express who you are. If I look at all of this, this is definitely part of it. So I feel this is more about the kind of societal expectations, the sort of like unwritten rules or whatever, and there is a shifting energy. So there is an opportunity here to bring more choice or more freedom into this. If you could create a world to live in around relationships, whether they are material relationships, whether they are political, whether they're social, or whether they're, intimate relationships, there is an energy that the old system is a bit spent around that, and there is an opportunity for something new. And so you've kind of picked that up. But there is some material outcome to it. It's not as and it's a new material outcome. It could be, for some of you, quite literally a divorce, so that, from an old system, so that you have the freedom to pursue what you want. That's a possibility as well. So there's many ways this could play out. It's an interesting energy. It's a very material energy for a very emotional type of choice. The emotional energy is the Empress reversed. So there's something here about recognizing maybe where the divine feminine has been suppressed, and that may be part of this energy. You've got a King of Pentacles reversed, now you've got an Empress reversed. So for some of you, this could be in a very close relationship where that's out of whack a bit for some reason. Or it could be that emotionally you want to be able to grow, expand and be abundant, and you can't until this change has occurred. You need a different environment to do that. And then spiritually, there's passion, there's channeling, there's clairvoyance, there's going after what you want and starting to express what you want. Again, around relationship energy. So this is what makes me feel like this feels like freedom. It feels to me like there's something here about either freeing the dynamics of the divine masculine feminine in whatever way that plays out in your relationships, or freeing societally somewhere, something along those lines. It's got that kind of sense of a world of greater acceptance and diversity around that sort of thing. So let's have a look with tarot. So we're firstly going to ask, what is the type of new world that you're trying to create here? A little bit more about what it's about. And that might give us a little bit more idea at what kind of level, from the very intimate through to the very political or social, are we talking about, or is it some combination of all of it? Then we're going to look at how does that differ from the present world, and then what unseen forces are involved. So firstly, a little bit more about the world you're trying to create. Six of Pentacles reversed. The Sun reversed. The Six of Cups. Strength reversed. The Devil. Okay, so the Devil's connecting over to this King of Pentacles energy. It's very Capricornian energy. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Capricorns. It's very much that material thing. So there is something material about this, even if it is really connected to a very intimate relationship and having freedom from it, or freedom to express it in a society or a family or a social group where it isn't accepted. Like whatever it is, there is something here where you're wanting to reduce the strength of the limitations. Like that's it feels more like it's reducing limitations and bringing things more into balance. Six of Pentacles reversed, particularly around relationships. I always say Six of Pentacles reversed is an excellent card because it's more about equal relationships. And there's something unequal in this. So to get to that equal level, it's like not having one dominant over the other. So there's sort of something about, and whether that's within a relationship or whether that's the type of relationship, it's like bringing in more equality, not so much that one is the sun and one is the moon sort of thing. So there is sort of something about the divine masculine feminine sort of energy there. Interestingly enough, there's something of the past in this that you're trying to bring back. So it doesn't necessarily, if this was about, wanting a more inclusive world around, people's relationships, it's not that you're looking for a more traditional kind of thing that says, no, it has to be like a man and a woman and for the purposes of procreation sort of thing. It's not that. But there might be something from your childhood. For some of you, you may have seen a very good example of that in your parents or in friends' parents or something like that. Or maybe it's just to get back to the innocence of that, like before all the kind of power politics comes into relationships. So there is a harking to the past, but it's like a freeing from the kind of balance, the imbalance of that that's associated with it. And what I'm getting there too is that these two young children just appear to be kind of equally doing something. There's something about before all the sexual politics that occurs in relationships as you get older, there was an innocence, and like there was a sense of equality. And like there's something like trying to touch that again, whether it's in a relationship you're in at the moment or whether it's in, as I say, a social sort of energy. Or if it's in a workplace and how people are relating in a workplace, you always want to get back to a sense of equality and almost that pure, innocent sort of collaborative energy, not so much about egos and who's strongest and who's going to be most powerful. So how does this differ from the present world? We have the Seven of Pentacles reversed, the Ace of Swords, the Queen of Swords reversed, and the Queen of Pentacles reversed. Okay. It has a different aim. So there's something about, and this is, remember, this is about relationship in some way, whether it's love relationships, whether it's sexual politics, whatever it might be, societal issues. It has a different aim. It's not about growing something. I almost feel for most of you this is about something very personal. It's either a one-on-one relationship you're looking at, or it's around how that is accepted, or it's within your sort of family, or particularly again with that kind of Six of Cups, like smaller community. It's not. It may have a ripple effect as an example of something into the broader world, but I feel like it's not. It's not about like trying to start a revolution. So it's not about growth. It's not about, you're not thinking scale here. You're thinking like relationships close by. It may well have a ripple effect because with the Ace of Swords, although you're not thinking about this growing, it may well inspire others, but that's not its purpose. And it's almost like whatever the system was, it did have a purpose to be broader, to provide power and control and like kind of suppress those that would challenge that power or control or belief. So it's different in its motivation. It would be very inspirational. It's likely to come into a lot of critique, and it's hard to sustain. So like the old system is easier to sustain because it was a power-based system around this in some way. It's hard to sustain this because it's so new and people will criticize it. But then having said that, you can do this because if you aren't focused on, I want this to be at scale, and you just put it into the things around what matters to you, that is a lot easier to deal with. And then if it has a ripple effect, it has a ripple effect. So then what unseen forces do you need to be aware of? Nine of Swords. No, sorry. No, hang on. That's not that. It's Justice, sorry. I was thinking, no, that's not Swords. That's Justice. And we have the King of Wands and the Nine of Pentacles reversed. Okay. So the interesting thing about this is that it is showing that, like, at the moment, your motivation to do this, although materially it is showing a kind of a old order that is disintegrating, it's giving the opportunity for that. And emotionally, you really want to have growth. You're not that focused emotionally on the growth because the Empress is reversed, and we've seen it again there. You just want freedom. Freedom, to love the way you want to love, to connect the way you want to connect, whatever it might be. It does have a bigger aspect. And I think this is like what will come from it. It's like the new idea will end up having a bigger application. And as a result, and it needs to be something that other people will ultimately agree with. There is a advocate or somebody else who would actually take this further. So that's good. Like whatever you would do, you will have support for this, and you will find that it does grow, and brings in a different community or different people, because there is something ultimately very just about what you're doing. So it's sort of like, at first, you've really just got to keep it very personal, because that makes the critique and the difficulty in sustaining it more manageable. Eventually what's going to happen is it does become an example, like broader in your community, broader in the world, broader legally, whatever it is. So it's like, Gandhi saying, become the change you want to see. It's like, do it at a very personal level first, and then it will ripple out, and eventually it's going to be taken up by others, and others will agree with this. So it's like being the inspiration and the early adopter of something new when an old system or an old set of beliefs is falling apart. So it is like, focus on what you want out of this, because it is a bit tricky to maintain this, but eventually it's going to have a different momentum, and the unseen forces are working in your favour, which is good. So let's see, around the material or political, even though we're saying this is very much intimate, personal, spiritual, like, it will eventually have a ripple effect. Let's just see what sort of very powerful deity energy supports you in this. Tyrannus. There's the freedom energy with Sagittarius. And, wow, Lucifer. That's interesting. Bringing the light. This is very interesting. I mean, one of the things I would also say in terms of bringing the light is that's the way this is depicted. I'm not talking about kind of Judeo-Christian views of Lucifer, the devil, and Satan, and conflating them. This is not Satan. This is a sense of the light bringer, but also the connection to, our own personal demons. And then Tyrannos is kind of a sense of victory, and, kind of finding victory when it is not expected, but it comes from courage. So there is a courage to go forward and shine the light operating here. And so it's overcoming something. It's having a victory when you don't expect it. And as I say, there's something in all of this where it's tricky to do what you're talking about because of probably some broader societal implications, but you can do it on a very personal level, and it will have a ripple effect out there, and it shines the light more generally. So, but I think that looks after itself, really. I feel like this is like those that take up the cause. I feel like there's a kind of a connection there with the King of Wands type. There's sort of someone who will then take this forward for you. So I think it looks after itself, but you have to look after the personal. So what do we have in relation to that? Looking at some animal spirit guides for you for personal, sort of emotional and spiritual energy. Hare, luck beyond fear. Yes, something's going to work out. You don't expect this to work out, or you don't expect to have the freedom that you want. But if you just focus on doing that, and like deal with that, and not worry about anything other than what you're doing. Don't create a big canvas for yourself. Just deal with what you want, the relationship choices that you want to do. You are going to have luck. If you move beyond fear and you're bold, you are going to have the luck that you need. And Dolphin, find the best in myself. Yeah, so this is, it's all about spiritually at the moment for you around this, spiritually, emotionally. It's just about you sorting out it for you. There are some bigger forces at work here, and they will eventually take forward what you do. So what you're going to do is more a harbinger, or almost the canary in the coal mine in a way, of the new order, the new world coming through in terms of whatever this is. And as long as you're happy within yourself, and the Lucifer card is also facing your own demons, knowing what's implied in this, like getting a very personal sense of self and looking for the best and looking for the light, then that's fine. That's all that's being required of you at the moment. Create your new world with this relationship or relationships you're choosing about. Don't feel that you have to boil the ocean. Other people will take up the cause. Okay. So let's get some everyday energy around this, because we've been working at a pretty high level. Let's get everyday energy that you might encounter in creating this new world. Okay, death. Now this is not saying actual death. It'd be a bit like death in the tarot. So there is a major transition. And I think that's picking up the material energy of what's going on in the world. Like it's like an old order is ending for a new order to come in. So it could be a bit scary. It could be like, will I get through this transition? Will I, be like a phoenix and rise again? So there is sort of something there where the change and the choice, you really do have to look at this and deal with that. And it is a very personal thing. And then we also have the podcast, okay? And then maybe eventually you talk about it. It's interesting. I did have it, and I didn't say, but I did have a sort of like feeling at one point when I was putting out this, I think it was actually like how it gets out to that if you work on this very personally, you might be able to then tell your story. Like that's kind of what it feels like. So you go through the big change and then you tell the story. That actually triggers something else. That's all that's required of you to bear witness to it in a way. Let's see what advice we have around. So the nature of the death, the nature, and it's not literally death as I say, the nature of the change and, what makes it a little bit scary. Yeah, you want to make sure that whatever this is authentic. It also may be the end of that which is inauthentic. So that's a very positive thing if so. But you may be worried, like, will the truth be able to come out? Can I be authentically myself? And then the podcast, you were good enough. Yeah, you are. And like you can actually talk about that and show yourself as an example in some way. I think you'll have a story to tell. I think that's going to be the impact on a broader level and other people take that up. This is really just about you dealing with this personal stuff, whatever it is, having the kind of relationships, whether it's love or other type of relationships, could be any type of relationship that you want and to be free to do that. Okay, so let's also see some astrology around it for you. Tenth house, the world. Yeah, it is. It's personal, but it will have an impact in the world and the world will have an impact on it. That's why on the material level, what's going on in the world will have an impact on that and it will get out to the world. May also, kind of make you a bit famous or make you some money eventually, but that's not the purpose. It's not why you're doing it, but it may have that outcome. And South Node, life's debts, moving away from that which is no longer serving you. And also, it's the world shifting. There's something going on in the world that allows us, gives the opportunity for it. But then you need to do it very personally and then maybe tell your story, and that's how you contribute. Okay, so to finish off, I just want to get a card from the Earth Power deck, which is, a place with sort of spiritual heft, either for you personally or for the world, as an example of the world that you're creating, whether it's very personal or whether it's a ripple effect that I think we see here. So for you, we have Wollongong, Mount Warning. This is actually First Nations territory here in Australia. I create my own destiny and opportunities. I am humbly eternal. So yeah, it's like you do you. This is what this is saying. You do you. It will have its own ripple effect, but you don't even have to worry about that. The time and circumstances you are at that tipping point materially, socially, that it can happen. It is, because it is the new coming in, it's hard to kind of maintain it and settle it and make the new order out of it. That's why you've really got to focus on you and the relationships you have and the choices you have in that space. But then tell your story, because this has a bigger impact. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.